In today's video, we're going to be having a closer look at a brand new firmware update for all of the Osee GoStream Deck video switchers. Regardless if you have the standalone HDMI version or the standalone Duet with HDMI and SDI, or you have the all-in-one kit like I'm using, which is the Osee GoStream Duet Kit, which comes with HDMI, SDI, NDI, this nice built-in hard case with the built-in monitor and switcher, jam-packed with so many features, just like their new firmware, guys. So in today's video, we're going to be using the Duet Kit to record this whole video like I'm doing right now. We're going to go through all of the menu and settings to show you and get you a little bit more familiar with the new firmware update features, and overall just get a little bit more familiar with my setup that I'm using for today's video. So stick with me, guys, because I definitely do feel that with this new firmware update, which is basically a lot of audio features which the GoStream Deck kind of felt like was maybe missing to some people, but now Osee has just added these features at no additional cost, which is fantastic. Osee Tech is a brand that has definitely been standing behind their products with continuing to listen to the end user suggestions and opinions and any features they want to see implemented either in a new product or even just like a firmware update like we're going to be looking at in today's video. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Right now you guys are looking at the recorded video from the Duet on the program, which I would normally send to my live stream or my recording, but what we're going to do is actually switch over here within the menu settings for the Duet Kit to actually record my multi-view, so you guys can basically see what I'm looking at as the Duet video switcher operator, all of the settings and menu and everything, so you guys can get a little bit more familiar. Let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, perfect. So now you guys are looking at the multi-view screen, which I am looking at over here onto the built-in monitor, so you guys can see my general layout, all of my controls, settings, and all of that. So just to kind of get you guys a little bit more familiar over here, onto the top right hand side, you guys can see where you see me with this white background. That is my program. As you can see, it's listed over there, and that is what I'm normally be sending out to my viewers, to my live stream, to my recording. And over here onto the left hand side, we can see a preview, and we have some text. For an example, a big step towards perfection. So that is actually one of my HDMI inputs, HDMI input number 4, which is coming from my laptop over here, and I'm just displaying some images from my laptop that basically talk about some of the features of this firmware, so you can see how I'm implementing this into my video. And if we just go down to the next level over here, you can see those are all of my HDMI inputs. We got HDMI input number 1 onto the left, then 2, then 3, then 4, just simply labeled over there. If we look over here to the bottom left, you can see we do have another box which is labeled as auxiliary. That's actually an NDI source. So just to go ahead and give you guys a quick little example, let's bring in my NDI source over here to the preview screen, which is just giving you guys a little bit of a behind the scenes. This is an NDI camera, which is basically right behind all of my setup over here, which is connected to a network and just simply connected to the Osee GoStream Deck via NDI. Nice and wirelessly, fantastic feature. I definitely recommend the NDI license if you guys do not have one. Next over here, we do have two still images towards the bottom. So right there, we got still 1 and still 2. You can see that I'm using still 1 in my program as the background for the chroma key. And onto the far right hand side over there at the bottom, we do have some information, and that's what we're going to be focusing on today in the menu and all of that. So you can see right now I am recording, how much time is remaining. You can see my audio level meters. So now that you guys are a little bit more familiar with that, let's switch to my HDMI input number 4, which again is coming from my laptop, so we can take a look at some of these features that have been added. So let's start off. A big step towards perfection. Most people think the only shortage on the GoStream compared to the ATEM Mini Pro is the lack of audio processing features. No problem, Osee has listened to our request. GoStream adds audio processing, video follow audio, auto switching, and more features in this new firmware update. So for an example, onto the left hand side, we have an image where they've added noise reduction with low cut filter and noise gate as well. They do have the auto switching, which we'll have a closer look at the menu and settings and how to configure that. And they've also improved the sound improvement with an EQ equalizer as well for all of the audio inputs. And they got a compressor and a de-esser as well. So we're going to open up the menu and we're going to scroll down until we find audio mixer. So let's go ahead and select on that. Let's scroll down a bit so we can see all of our different options over here. So you'll see here at the top, audio mixer, that's the tab. And now we have control for all of these different settings over here. So for an example, microphone number 1, let's go ahead and select it. You can see that it's enabled. And if we scroll down, you can see all of these additional features that they've added. For an example, we can control the panning, the fader for this microphone, the input for this microphone, any delay if we need to, the high pass filter, we can enable it. And if we do enable it, we have the high pass filter frequency, the high pass filter slope, along with the de-esser we can enable. So if we do enable the de-esser, we can go ahead and adjust the threshold, the ratio, and the attack time, and also the release time, and the de-esser gain and the de-esser frequency. So if we continue to scroll down here, we got noise gate, so we can enable this. And if we enable the noise gate, we can adjust the threshold, the attack time, the hold time, and the release time, and the range. And we also have control now of a compressor, so we can go ahead and adjust the compressor threshold, the ratio, the attack time, and the release time, and the gain. And we have an EQ, an equalizer built in, so we can go ahead and enable that. And what do we have here? EQ low, we can enable EQ low frequency, EQ low gain, and we got the Q factor, and we got the mid EQ as well, so we can enable that. We can adjust the frequency, the gain, and the Q factor. And now we have the EQ high. So look at all of these fine-tuned controls. So we can go ahead and enable that, the frequency, the gain, and the Q factor as well. So you can see just for mic 1 alone, we have all of these controls. But guess what? We're not done there. We could do the same thing over here for microphone number 2, input 1 to 4 as well. So mic 1, mic 2, all of your HDMI inputs, and along with your auxiliary as well. Like my example, I'm using the NDI camera. Let's come over here to auxiliary. We can go ahead and enable the microphone if we want to, and control all of the panning, the fader, the high pass, the de-esser, EQ, all of these different things. So this is fantastic. And as far as the program, so let's take a look at what features they've added over here for the program. We have the control for fader, the limit enable, so it does now have a limiter as well for the program out to basically prevent any clipping. So let's go ahead and scroll down. We got the limiter threshold, the limiter attack time, and the limiter release time, and the limiter gain. So we got a lot of controls as far as the audio that they've added into over here. And finally, I don't think this is anything new over here, but we got headphones, so we can monitor and adjust the level for the headphones, and depending on what we actually want to monitor. So normally I monitor the program, what I'm sending out to my live stream or my recording. And as far as the last audio setting we have over here, common, this has always been here. So it's basically on how you want to adjust your audio switching, or how do you want your audio to be affected over here. So right now I have it set to hard cut, what I normally do, or if you're going to be using any transitions, you can also switch it to switch with the effect. So let's come back over here to hard cut. So that is everything that we have underneath the audio mixer, all of those controls. So it says make your voice heard. GoStream now adds audio processing features to its audio mixer. As we just saw, these features include the low cut filter, high pass filter, de-esser, noise gate, compressor, equalizer on each input channel, and the limiter on the PGM output. So by using these features, professional sound can be created, and the imperfection in the sound input can be repaired. So if you have any buzzing or humming or background noise, we can go ahead and filter out some of those sounds and improve our audio. So overall, it's definitely a really nice feature. So let's go ahead and see what other features we have available. Let's go to the next slide. So over here, clipless audio. So Osee has added with 32-bit internal processing. The GoStream audio mixer provides clipless audio processing from video inputs 1 to 4, auxiliary, and the PGM program limiter after the PGM fade will limit the output level to what you need without clipping. So basically, as you saw within the menu, we can enable this limiter for our program. So it's really nice that we can individually control all of our audio effects and sounds for each input, and also the output, the final output that we're going to be sending, we can also enable a limiter. So that's definitely really nice, along with the 32-bit internal processing. Let's go to the next slide over here. So here we have audio meter for digital age. So basically, we've always had an audio level meter, but now we actually have like this little 1-second hold at the top, so it kind of shows us a little bit easier if we are clipping or whatnot. So it kind of holds that peak value so we can easily see it and adjust our volumes accordingly. Let's go to the next slide over here. So switch the video with voice. This is huge. I really do like this feature, so check it out. Automatically switches the close-up and the wide shot cameras, ideal for video podcast, panel shows, and live discussions, keeping your production dynamic. The control audio can be mapped to microphone number 1 and 2, and the video inputs can be mapped to inputs number 1 to 4 or the auxiliary. So basically both of our microphone inputs and all of our video inputs, we can map them to basically any configuration that you want to meet your needs. And the close-up camera can come from a camera of an NDI source. The wide shot camera can either be another camera or a super source. So let's go ahead and show you guys within the menu exactly what they were talking about. So let's come over here to the menu. We're going to scroll down until we see right over here, there's a new menu which says auto switching. Let's go ahead and select it. Okay, so we have enable, so we can turn it on or off right over here. So let's just keep it off for now. But if we did turn it on, let's see what other options we have. Let's come to audio A. So audio A, so microphone number 1 for an example. What microphone do you want to configure? And what is the threshold that you want that microphone to basically enable the auto switching? So right now I have my audio source set to microphone number 1. And I have my threshold set to -24 dB. That's what I find works best for me as far as the threshold. Let's come back over here. So for audio number B, so basically the other person speaking, what do you want to configure that one to? So I have it set to microphone number 2. And I also have the threshold set to -24. So it's really nice that we can adjust the threshold, because maybe one speaker or one person is talking a little bit louder or quieter or whatnot, and whatever threshold you want it to actually activate the auto switching, that's going to allow us to control that right over there. And finally over here, the video mapping. So the first option we have is A, basically the first person for an example, which camera is going to be looking at that person number 1. So for an example, I have a HDMI input number 1. And for camera B, so that second person into the interview, for an example, which camera do you want to assign to them? I'm going to have input number 2. And now we have A plus B mapping. So if they're basically both talking at the same time, person A and person B, how do you want it to be displayed? Do you want it to be like a super source? Do you want it to go to another input, which might be the third camera, a little bit wider? So as I have selected A plus B mapping, I have it selected as super source, but we can go ahead and select any one of our other inputs over here. As you guys can see, HDMI inputs number 1 to 4 along with auxiliary, but I like to use the super source, so it kind of basically shows both of the people at the same time. Or if you're using another third camera, you can have that wide shot or whatever angle you want to get. Let's take a look over here onto the next slide over here and see what other features they have added. So new super source layout. So now we have a 3:1 ratio and a 2:1 super source layout are both provided for better presentations. So it just gives us basically more flexibility depending on how you want to configure your setup. Maybe you're interviewing somebody or you're trying to showcase or whatever. We can basically configure all of those different ratios and sizing, etc. to the way we want. So let's go ahead and have a closer look at the menu settings for the super source. And for us to have a better understanding, what I'm going to do is actually activate the super source right over here onto the switcher. So we're going to activate it over here into the preview. Let's make a cut over here into the program. And now let's go ahead and open up the menu. So we actually have the super source option as our second option here into the menu. We're going to select that. Firstly, we have the enable option. So right now you can see currently it's on, or I can go ahead and switch it off, but I want to have it on for this demonstration. Now what we're going to do is scroll down to select the source. So what source do we want to use? So for source 1, for an example, the video onto the left hand side, I have HDMI input number 1. For source 2, I have HDMI input number 2, which is the camera over here. And for the background, what do we want to select? So we can select, as you see, I have still 2, or we can go ahead and use still 1, or the auxiliary, any source that you want to use. You can see over here, you can go ahead and pick. So what I'm going to do is just pick my still number 2 because I think this one looks the best. So let's scroll down to the next option over here, which is control for that super source, and we have the style to pick from. So right now I currently have it set to zoom out. As you guys can see, I got both of the images side by side, 16:9, along with the image into the background with my logo, etc. But we do have a few different options and ratios to pick from. For an example, we got crop zoom out. So we got a 16:9 onto the right hand side, which is larger, and onto the left hand side, my other input is basically just like of a vertical type of a thing, a little bit more narrow. We can switch to the next one, which is basically going to flip that. We have the narrow one onto the right versus to the left hand side. We also have the crop, so it's going to basically take up the full 16:9 image, cropped in, zoomed in, for an example. And we have another one over here. We got crop zoom out 1:2 ratio. So it looks similar to the one that we saw before, but it's not as narrow. So this could also definitely be a nice layout. For an example, if you're going to be doing like an interview or guest speaker or anything like that, or you're doing like a presentation or whatever your setup is, this is nice to have all of this control. Same idea over here, zoom out crop 2:1 ratio. And those are all the options that we have. And for an example, let's come over here to the zoom out one, because that's the one I commonly use. And we can adjust the Y position. So for an example, if I wanted to lower it down or if I wanted to bring it up. So let's see what other options that we have available over here. We got mask 1. So basically, if you want to enable this, this is something that we've basically had before, but you can basically crop this on however you want, either vertically, horizontally, etc. In most cases, I like to just leave everything as is, but if you really want to customize it, we do have that option over there to mask the input number 1 or the mask number 2 input as well. So if we scroll down here even further, we can go and adjust the border controls for each one of the inputs for the super source. So let's go to border number 1. As you can see, I currently have it set to 0, which is basically no border, but we can increase the thickness of the border all the way up to 10%. And we can go ahead and adjust the hue, so to select any color that you want. And we can go ahead and adjust the saturation and brightness as well for each one of the borders for the 2 inputs that we have available over here. So let's just bring this one up, and we can adjust the hue to any color that we want, just the same as the other border inputs. So overall, the super source and all the controls that we have available, really fantastic and nice to incorporate into your live streams. So let's go back over here to the PC. I'm going to activate HDMI input number 4, and we're going to go to the next slide over here to see what other features are included. So we do have still image position. So yes, that's another feature. We can now go ahead and make a logo more easily by adjusting the position of the still image. So why don't we go ahead and demonstrate that for an example. So let's go over here to still image number 2 onto the preview. So there we go. Let's go into the menu. And what we're going to do now, we're going to come over here to still generator. So what we want to do is what we're going to see in this feature is the position for still 1 and to still 2. So let's go to still 2 for an example, because that's the one that I have activated over here onto the preview. And we got the X position. So for an example, we can shift this over left or right, whatever we want. And we can come over here to the Y position as well to really kind of fine tune it to wherever you want to position your logo or whatever it is. So I think this might be an option that could work for me. That's actually pretty good. This will work really nice for the super source as well. So guys, as you can tell, this new firmware update has definitely taken the Osee GoStream Deck video switchers to the next level. I'm definitely so impressed with all of the audio features that they have added. My favorite feature is the auto switching, which is basically video follow audio. Fantastic, really nice to configure and set up and incorporate into my live streams, into my recordings. If you guys do have any questions, let me know down into the comment section down below. If you guys do want to know more specifically on a more detailed video on any of the topics or features that we discussed into this video, also let me know down into the comment section. And I will leave some product links down into the description of the Duet Kit and all the equipment that I'm using for this video. I do appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Till next time, peace.